Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of the Afternoon Edition. My name is Isa Nu. Today we shall be focusing on issues that borders on security. And you know, the issue of national security doesn't actually goes beyond, or let me say it goes beyond the issue of just saying Nigeria and its states, including the FCT. But then you have to consider your neighbor when you're discussing about the issue of foreign policy analysis. And definitely the issue of national security also has to do with your neighbor. But let me take from the snippet of nobody but Mr. Dakuku Peter Side on his recent literature where he talked about trouble in the neighborhood. I'll just take a brief look at it and then we'll discuss in detail with our guest today in person of Barrister Aliu, who is there in the studio to discuss this particular issue. You all know that the issue that is happening, or what is happening in Niger Republic, is something that is very, very important because we are just a stone throw to Niger, and anything that affects Niger's security definitely is going to affect us. And that is the more reason why we have to discuss this issue, because for some time now the issue is becoming and is taking another dimension. At that point where it all started, the talk then was Nigerian government is going to invade, or the Nigerian military is going to invade Niger Republic. And with time, the government came out and criticized that particular statement, that it was not that Nigerians are invading or Nigerian army is going to invade Niger. It was an ECOWAS decision, and that was not just the only decision. There was issue of diplomacy and some other issues. But let me quickly take you through the write-up made by Mr. Dakuku Peter Side, former governorship candidate of the APC in Rivers State. He said that Niger Republic is Nigeria's next-door neighbor. The country is not the best neighbor Nigeria would have desired, but as a sovereign nation, we have no control over it. Niger's economic statistics, population, demography, poverty and security threat, terrorism, insurgency, and internal communal conflict are too much baggage for any neighboring country to want. However, like all responsible neighbors, a threat to a neighbor is a threat to you. A fire outbreak in your neighbor's house is a valid threat to your own safety, and it is in your enlightened self-interest to ensure peace in the neighborhood. Only then can you have a measure of peace. Relating this to countries sharing borders, Nigeria needs peace at this crucial time to address its socio-economic and security challenges. Of recent, the peace of Niger Republic has been threatened and breached. For some weeks back, members of the elite military presidential guard successfully overthrew the elected government of President Muhammad Bazoum and named General Abdul Rahmani Chiani as the president of National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland. So when this twist happened recently, so many Nigerians are disturbed, most especially those that shares border with Niger Republic. And not just that, before then, there was an issue with what happened in Mali, and then we have that of Burkina Faso. So many countries were taking the toll of the military junta, and you know the ECOWAS had to come out and then stamp its feet, most especially with what happened in Niger Republic, in order for them to put a stop so that it cannot go and cut across all the states that are within the West African sub-region. So these are critical issues, and definitely, you know, whenever anything happens to neighboring countries that borders Nigeria, it is definitely going to affect our security internally. The humanitarian crisis that will follow, so many social issues definitely are going to follow up. And if we, as Nigerians, are not satisfied with what is happening in Nigeria, it is time for us to also look at what the government is also doing to protect our own national security. So we'll go on a very short break, and when we return, we'll start up with the conversation.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. I wish to make our position plain beyond any matter of doubt as regards the African continent. We in Nigeria appreciate the advantages which the size of our country and of its population give us, but we have absolutely no aggressive intentions. We shall never impose ourselves upon any other country and shall treat every African territory, big or small, as our equal, because we honestly feel that it is only on that basis of equality that peace can be maintained in our continent. We in Nigeria are a populous country. There are about 40 million of us, and our territory is relatively large. We are willing to learn before we rush into the field of international politics. But we are totally unwilling to be diverted from the ideals which we think true. That is the reason, Mr. President, why we in Nigeria shall not be found to align ourselves as a matter of routine with any particular bloc. Indeed, I hate the very idea of blocs existing at all in the United Nations. It seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. When we hear the world crying out for peace, we may receive the inspiration to deal with these intractable problems and be able really to devote all our resources to the advancement of mankind by applying those eternal truths which will inevitably persist long after we ourselves are utterly forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome back from the break. And just before the break, I did inform that we are having Barrister Aliu Anas Megoro, a human rights activist. And today we'll be discussing the issue of security. And issue of security also borders on human rights. There are so many aspects of the human rights that we have to look out for during the course of discussing issues of conflict and also security resolution. So this is a major reason why we're having you here today. Good afternoon, Barrister Aliu Anas Megoro.
Good afternoon, sir.
It's nice having you today on the program. What's your take on the current leadership in the country? Let's start with that in terms of security.
To me, this administration or this current leadership is one of the best leadership that Nigeria have ever. When you look at the issue as regard to the security, like you said, and the primary, like Section 14 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, subsection 2, that emphasize on issue of the primary purpose of the government, which is the security and welfare of the people. And if you can see this government tackle such particular issue, because when we talk about the issue of security, you look at the people that Mr. President has appointed as service chiefs. And if you look at the issue under Section 2 of subsection 2 of Section 14 of the 1999 Constitution, you see it talks about issue of welfare. And just of recent, Mr. President has given each state of this country $5 billion to tackle issue of what insecurity. Insecurity, man, is not only on issue of crisis or war alone, or issues of kidnapping or other things. Insecurity is issue of food. Where there's not food, or people cannot handle their own meal, cannot be able to see, like what is happening in this country now, things that are expensive, you say no. Since things are expensive, it begin to give a decision to every state that, that have to tackle or address the problem or predicament of their people in that state. And that is why he gave $5 billion to each state in this country to address this issue of hunger that is tormenting people within the states in this country.
So now, if you look at the President Buhari's administration, he faced so many issues that has to do with insecurity, Boko Haram, banditry, regional crises like in the Niger Delta, in the southeastern part of the country, in the southwestern part of the country. How do you see the present leadership addressing these issues?
This government, when government came into the existence, that government is not just government to come and take, solution of every predicament. It has to be going through gradually. If you see the issue of the crisis you are talking about, even day before yesterday, the chief of army, chief of defense staff was there in the Niger Delta. I mean the Port Harcourt, that the river state, on issue as regard to the theft of oil, the crude oil that the indigenous of that particular place that always stealing the oil there. You see the national security advisor, that is Mr. Ribadu, and the chief of defense staff and the minister of defense itself, they all go in there immediately to see what is exactly happening there. And when they went there, they came back and then tried to analyze issues on how the solution will be resolved, how they analyze and bring out a solution to tackle that particular problem. So what I'm trying to say is that the issue of security in this country, or being in the south or in the west, has been taking serious issue in this country. That is the first thing that this administration or this government that is not playing with.
They say the issue of the youth also has a major role to play when you discuss about the issue of security. I remember during the president campaign, he did raise so many issues with respect to how he's going to engage the youth in order for them to join the forces and then stop the issue of insecurity in the country. How do you see him engaging Nigerian youth to benefit the nation?
Of course, he did that. If you can look at the ministers he has appointed, some of them, not all, you can see these are the people that are strong, like Hannatu, Barisa Hannatu, the minister appointed from the Katsina State. If you can see, look at, she's young. She's not somebody. She's not old, or she's not. She's somebody that has. She's somebody that has experience, and she's also tackling or going along with the younger ones to see the issues or the current issues that is happening in this country. So most of the ministers they appointed, or other appointment that he did, there are young people that he appointed, and after all, they have not even finished appointment. This is just people are rushing on this issue. Most of the names that are before the Mr. President, and I'm sure are the names of the young ones, despite he has appointed some, but there's another one that's going to...
My focus is on getting Nigerian youth. We have so many of Nigerian youth who are unemployed, who are on the streets.
Okay.
And so many of them have nothing to do, and as a result of that, they go into issues that definitely is affecting Nigeria. They go into drugs. They are part of those who carry out this kidnapping. They are part of those who go into banditry. How can he harness that particular demography in such a way that, yes, we can get the youth into work or into jobs that they can also help in making sure that the nation is safe and secure? And
that's what I'm trying to say. This issue of government, the government just came in. Government have not even spent 3 to 4 months. That
does that mean that we shouldn't, discuss issues?
That is the reason why he appointed the service chiefs, and that is where he focus on the security to tackle. It is the reports that are going to him that is going to address. I don't know whether you get what I'm saying. So these reports are going to him. Now we cannot just say immediately when the problem has been taken to him to resolve them immediately. No, there's some issues that they have to look. They want to bring the permanent solution to this country. So we know that.
What I'm saying is, how can they bring permanent solution to these particular issues when they are not addressing the issue of youth unemployment? If you don't address the issue of youth unemployment, definitely is a national security issue also. Yeah. So what modes or what model do you think the president can adopt in such a way that, yes, he can get the nation covered in such a way that we will not have so many of these crises?
This is what I'm saying. The methods. Well, anything that I'm going to say based on my own advice.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to say,
the advice I want from you.
Good. Because I'm not going to say what he's going to do. I'm going to tell you the advice that he needs to do. So to me, right now, that every youth on an individual in this country, that they have to make a measurement and make a point in such a way, because they just appointed some ministers, just take their own duty now.
They had their first executive
so you cannot talk about the directions of these particular ministries or these on them. But to me, where they are there is that every person, if it is employment, they have to trace an institution for employment. Institutions such as that is universities and other places of institution to tackle the data, to have the numbers of of the employment, of the students that are there. This is the only way that every student that is coming out will be able to be given an appointment as depending on the course he study. But those that are on ground right now is for them to create, depending on what the minister, because every ministry has its own function, to send out their report on how to tackle the problem. So the unemployment can be addressed only when there's the FEC meeting, that's the Federal Executive Council meeting. So to me, issue of unemployment can be addressed because there are so many places that youth can work towards there. And that is the reason why we cannot address this issue of unemployment specifically right now until and unless the just inaugurated ministers that they have at their way, and then they will not report to have the data of the people that have not been employed, that are not working. And this is what brought issue of crisis or insecurity in this country. So every issue can be addressed based on the ministry. So what I'm trying to say here is that the employment of youth can be done based on the numbers or based on the report that the minister of each ministry report to them, because they have not even started a fake meeting. That Federal Executive Council. Okay, they've started today. Yes. Okay, of course, I was in the NBA meeting conference today. I didn't even know. So what it is for them to look at what they do, and that is the solution to the Mr. President. So my advice here is this: is that let's see what is happening. Let's tackle this issue as regard to what's the current problem that is happening in this country right now. Let's tackle before now the ministers will not sit and analyze issues and then bring out the report of what is happening from each of their own ministry.
Are you concerned with what is happening in Niger Republic?
Yeah, very well.
Why should you have that concern?
Good. Whatever happened to Niger happened to Nigeria. Whatsoever happened to Nigeria happened to Nigeria, because Nigerians are practicing democracy in their country. So if let's assume what exactly happened, if you look at what they did in Niger is very wrong. It's very wrong because you cannot take over the government while the government is practicing democracy, because democracy is the best system of government. So what will happen to Nigeria happened to Nigeria because we are one. We are one. If you look at the border in the Sokoto, the border with Sokoto and the Katsina, these are all places that are very, there's proximity with the Nigeria. So whatever happened to Nigeria happened to Nigeria too. So it's the best system to adopt in tackling the problem of Niger is dialogue, is mediation. And that is, to me, that's what the Mr. President has started. That is, he sent some group of leaders to address the issue, and later the issue has not been resolved. He still sent again. So, and having done that, since they have not arrived as at the mediation point, or at the bring the issue of solution, then they have to sanction them. They have to sanction them by cutting their electricity, and that is very important thing for them to know that if they could not be able to arrive, or they have not agreed to the solution, then the next step will be taken, and which is the issue of war. Because there's nobody that nobody would like war. Nobody would like war in this country. And when the war started from the Nigeria to touch Nigeria, that will happen to Nigeria too. So that is why we're afraid not, war to start, because it's going to be the last solution that the ECOWAS is going to take as regard to the Niger.
But then when you look at the way Nigerians, also the government takes Nigeria security very, very important. And I'm trying as much as possible to send emissaries to Niger Republic in order for them to have one-on-one tit-a-tat to get more information on how they can resolve the problem. Coming back to Nigeria, now that we've noticed what is happening in Niger, what do you think the government needs to put in place so that we don't also have something like that in the country? Dialogue.
The government has to go on issue of dialogue. All the means of dialogue. Look, when you look at the issue, when you look at like our country here, when you look at section 217 to section 218, 19, 20, talks about issue of protection of the lives and property of people. No system of government in the whole world that's as beautiful as democracy. Because democracy is a people to respect the life. If you look at, like what I told you, section 14, if you look at section 15 of also our own constitution, talk about peace and unity. And look at the service chiefs that Mr. President has a power under Section 218 that's appointed. If you look at them, they are very serious on how to address this issue of a war in the, what do you call it, issue of military in the Niger, issue of this Niger. They are trying to, they're all their effort, making their effort to address the issue. But if you look at the service, what do you call it, Chief of Defense Staff, what he spoke, he said he doesn't like war, but he wants the Nigeria, the best system of government is democracy. So he's always emphasizing on issue of protection or protecting and strengthening democracy.
But if the people of Nigeria seems like they also want what is happening there. We can see that even a few days after the takeover, so many Nigerians came out and then they were protesting in support of the new leadership there. So what can you say in respect to that? And how do you think Nigerians, let me say the president, will be able to address this issue squarely? Because now the Chief of Defense Staffs of the ECOWAS sub-region, they have a meeting to see that, yes, they mount pressure on General Chiani to step aside for the former President Bazoum to return back to his position. So how do you see us managing this whole situation in such a way that it is not going to affect Nigerians that are also living in Nigeria?
As I was saying, the best system is dialogue. Mediations, issue of the ADR to be resolved based on that. If you cannot attack there, you cannot resolve issue with war. Because nobody likes to go into war. Even the service chiefs, they don't like to go into war. And that is the reason why they've been sending some groups of people to address the issue. But what they are saying there in Nigeria, that they have to rule the Nigeria for 3 years, and which is not possible. It's not possible. So up to now, the government is, continuing to address the issue, and that is the reason why the Chief of Defense Staff, as I said earlier, emphasizing on issue. Even when he said that if Mr. President asks them to go, they are ready. He's saying that because he's always at the instance of the direction of the Mr. President, and that is the reason why. But he himself is always protecting the democracy and the rights. And look at what happened in what do you call it, in Niger State. In Niger State, he was so disturbed. He was so disturbed in such a way.
Before the issue of what happened in Niger State,
yeah.
Weren't you disturbed about the insecurity in Nigeria before now? Were you disturbed about it?
Yeah, very well.
And do you think it is right for Nigerians, if that is the last resolution still, according to the ECOWAS, that yes, it is still on the use of force is still on the table? Are you not concerned that if they get to that point, which we don't pray they get to that point, are you not concerned about the situation in Nigeria where we're having so much of internal security issues? Why not we face our issues and then leave Niger for them to be able, or leave other African countries to be able to manage the situation in Nigeria?
We are facing our own issue. Mr. President is facing both. He's a leader of ECOWAS. So he cannot only face his Nigeria without the other one. He's a leader. They are under him too. So the issue of facing our own insecurity has been addressed already, or is going on up to now. And that's like what I said. Insecurity is not issue of crisis, war and other things, or kidnapping alone. Hunger alone is also part of insecurity. And he has been addressing such particular issue. So, and if you cannot pass through Kaduna. I mean, Kaduna, what do you call it, Abuja to Kaduna Strait without any issue. But if you now, even last week I passed through there, there's nothing happened. So they are trying. All the soldiers and other people that have been spread, the information have been taken on, and even the army people and the policemen are always emphasizing that the civilian, the people should also assist them for getting an information where you think you are not satisfied with somebody, so that we'll address the issue. So Mr. President is always trying on the issue of the insecurity, and it's a duty on him or imposed on him to also mind the situation of Niger. And that is why you see him, forming some committee for dialogue. Such particular committee of dialogue report, even last week they reported to him what exactly happened. So gradually they will arrive at a very beautiful solution in such a way such particular war will not go on.
And what do you think? How long do you think this will last?
And that is depending on how the parties or the people that he form as a committee for the dialogue to resolve. But we are saying our security in this country, they are doing well. They are very serious. All the people we appointed as a security member or security itself, they are the people that they are sound, they are the people that are ready, to sacrifice their life. Most especially in army. Because if you pick the chief of defense, it's a feed man. It's a man that doesn't even like to stay in office. He only wants to be there in the war. Most of the places he did or he handled or he chair, you can see that successively that most of the insecurity issues has been addressed. If it cannot be addressed all, but it has been mitigated. If you talk about the southeast, I mean the northeast that he held, if you talk about this area that he held also too, there's no issue of that insecurity again. So the people that he appointed as the service chiefs, they are competent, they are good people, they know their work, they know what they're doing. So issue of war, issue of insecurity is something that you cannot rush it and solve it right now. It's something that have to go gradually, and that is why we have confidence in them. We have confidence in them. And that is the reason why you see they're all disturbed. They're all disturbed on the issue of this Niger.
But if you talk about the issue of, for instance, the Chief of Defense Staff and the rest, just recently we had some military guys who were killed in Niger State. And how do you think, for you to have been appraising them now, they just started their tenure, just like same way you said the president just started his tenure. Is this the right time for you to really appraise what they've done so far when they still have more years to come? Of course.
But if you really what happened in Niger, in Niger State, immediately the thing happened and the ambush of by the bandit occurred, then the Chief of Defense Staff went there immediately. He did not even have to waste the time because of how substantial or important the lives of the people that were killed there. He rushed to there. He went to the 44 hospital there in Kaduna State. He was so distraught. He addressed the press and telling the people of this country that he's going to be told his men that they should be serious and face all those kidnappers or all those bandit people that are disturbing his troops. All the troops is commanded there. He also says that those people that are injured are in the hospital, they have to be treated well. If they cannot be, if it is something that will lead them to go to outside country, he will take care of that. He flew them outside country to be treated. So you can see how rush he did, how take the decision of those people very well. Before, no, I don't think there's a Chief of Defense Staff or any army that is taking his troops or taking his boys or taking his soldiers or officers very serious where there's a predicament. He rushed immediately. So you can comment.